Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I have come here on your platform because there are things that I want to confess to you. These are the things that me and my wife did by the time that we were still there in South Africa. When I was in South Africa, I was working as a delivery driver for a very small company. It then happened that because of the rules and the regulations, it was very difficult for me and my wife to renew our permits, in which my wife, she was working in the hospitality industry. We then got our package. It was not a lot, Brother Nashi. We tried to stay in South Africa, but with the level of life that we used to have, because my wife, when she was at work, she used to get a lot of tips at the restaurant where she was working, and I used to get a lot of money as well. So we were staying like in the low density areas. So for us to go back in the location, it was very difficult for us to adjust because we were used to living that soft life. We tried a little bit. My wife then got a job at this other small restaurant, but the pay there, it was just horrible. As for me, I tried to work for this other Indian man who had a cash and carry. The pay there, it was even worse, really horrible. We then thought that it was far much better for us to return back home. There was a time when we returned back home. I still remember that it was during that time, like in our country, when most of the people do those rituals where you go and then you place tombstones on your relatives' graves, as well as taking the spirits of your dead relatives, bringing them back into the family. So there was one grandmother of mine. She had passed away a very long time ago. So as a family, that was when we sat down and we said that it was far much better that we buy a tombstone, not just buying a tombstone for her, but we needed to do that traditional ceremony where we would invite a spirit, because we believed that a spirit was just wandering around in the forest, not finding any rest at all. We then had to find some traditional healer, not just one traditional healer, but we spoke with 3 different traditional healers, in which when we found out that they were saying the same thing, that my grandmother's spirit was not resting at all, we then picked one amongst those 3 traditional healers who charged us a lot of money. We bought the tombstone and everything. So the traditional healer came for the ceremony. African brewed beer was there. We drank, we sang, and we invited a spirit. She spoke with us and we celebrated. It then happened that I managed to get the contacts of that traditional healer. The reason as to why, it was because there was this other company that I was aiming for. So this company, it is no longer employing foreigners, but I just thought that if I could be given some charms that could give me good luck, maybe I could manage to get in there. Because as for my CV, I have a very impressive CV because I've been in this industry for the longest time and employed by a lot of South African companies. So that man then said that he wanted my passport as well as the CV. He then took my passport and the CV, and he told me that he was going to leave these things at the graves. I was really shocked when he told me that throughout the night my passport and my CV would be at the graves, so that they can collect the spirits of those that died and they were living a very good life when they were still alive, so that they can follow me to South Africa. I then returned back to South Africa and I finally found a job. This was a good paying job. I won't mention the name of that company. That was the beginning of my sorrows. I do not want to lie to you. When I would be fast asleep, I would have dreams and sleeping with different women, and my wife used to wake me up. Sometimes I'll be crying in my sleep. And then we returned back home and spoke with that traditional healer. That was when the traditional healer told us that the luck that he had given me, somehow it had transformed itself and it had became a cat. And this cat, it was there to give me good luck as well as to give me money if I was going to instruct this cat to give me money. And when we calculated the situation that we were now facing in South Africa, me and my wife, we then said that it was far much better to relocate from South Africa, returning back to our country. To our relatives, what they did not know was that We just pretended as if we were returning back home to retire. We had managed to build a very big house by the time that we used to work and had good jobs, me and my wife. So we returned back and pretended as if this was us retiring, but we had returned back so that we can go through with the rituals. But then me and my wife, we had to eat a cat. We had to drive around different neighborhoods looking for a cat until one night we then found out that there was this other cat. We then stepped out of the vehicle and we approached that cat, and the cat, it seemed as if it was used to a lot of people. It did not even run away. My wife grabbed that cat and threw it inside this other plastic bag, and we drove very fast to the traditional healer's house. When we arrived there, that was when I was given a knife and I was told that I was supposed to stab that cat, for we needed the meat of the cat. We had to eat it. Brother Nashi, that was what I did. That cat, I then stabbed it, and then we removed it from that plastic bag. Then my wife had been boiling hot water and we started skinning that cat. It was something that was really disgusting. We then placed the meat in this other huge pot and we started cooking. We cooked this cat from around 9 p.m. until somewhere 12 a.m. when the traditional healer said that it was okay. And then we had prepared soft porridge that we were supposed to eat. That was what we did. We ate the meat of a cat when we were doing these money-making rituals. From there on, we were told that we had to wait. We waited, Brother Nashi, for something like 7 days, until one morning, my wife was the first one to wake up. I was really stressed. I kept on thinking what I was supposed to do now that we were back in Zim, and the situation was really difficult. My wife screamed so hard that I woke up, and she then told me that there was a cat, but this cat, it had the body of a snake. I looked and I saw that there was indeed a cat with the body of a snake. It was looking at my wife. Then it vomited a huge sum of money. After it had vomited the money, it disappeared. We took the money and we then spoke with the traditional healer, who told us that this was normal. This will continue happening as long as we followed the rules. The problem is that one of the rules that the traditional healer has since told us is that my son is supposed to die. I have my son right now who is in grade 6. My son is supposed to die, and I do not want my son to die because I had named him after me. How can I do something like that to my own blood, to my own son? Brother Nashi, currently we are looking for any healer who is able at least to change the rules so that at least this Dokoloshi, we can get to keep it, but it can get to give us money without being very harsh and hard on us. Because as for the money, it is good, it is coming to us. But the problem is that it now wants me to sacrifice my own son, in which I won't be able to do such a thing. Please assist me before my time runs out. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brother. Strange things indeed they do happen in this world.